Before we get started, due to the mental link between Harry and Ginny, meaning they can communicate through telepathy, I will be adding little bits here and there just to tell you guys when they are doing that. I should have done this a few chapters ago, I'm sorry. Anyway, here we go. It's okay not to be okay, but I promise I'm trying, by rayrae118. Chapter 25, Part 2. February the 24th was a dreaded day for Harry. He woke up that morning later than normal and almost stumbled as he got out of bed. A glance at his watch told him he had missed his opportunity for a morning run, but he didn't think he would have been able to do it, even if he had woken up earlier. He felt different. Something felt wrong. He searched around for a moment, trying to figure out what, before he realised where the bond was connecting him to Ginny normally was. There was an empty hole. He couldn't feel her anymore. He panicked briefly, realising she was most likely already in the lake, and trepidation settled over him. He hadn't realised how accustomed he had become to having her presence in his mind. Breakfast dragged on, and Harry kept glancing up at the head table, hoping that McGonagall would come to take him to the lake. He needed to get Ginny back. All of them were a little confused that Hermione hadn't joined them for the meal. Either she was sleeping late, which seemed unlikely, or she, like Ginny, was currently sitting under the lake. But why would she be taken? Harry wondered if it was because she had been Victor's date to the Yule Ball, and possibly the only option, as the Bulgarian didn't have anyone closer to be taken at Hogwarts. Susan joined them for the meal and was sitting between Harry and Neville. She spent most of her time trying to get him to eat, but Harry stubbornly shook his head. "I can't," he refused, looking faintly sick at the toast and bacon she had placed on his plate. Susan looked equally stubborn. Harry wondered if she had been taking lessons from Hermione. "Harry, you need your strength." Harry just kept shaking his head. How could he explain that any food right now would just make him sick? It would be hard enough to complete this task when he felt like a piece of him was missing. Ron looked up briefly before returning to his own meal. Neville, on Susan's other side, thought about joining Susan in her protests, but decided against it. That look in Harry's eyes quite clearly said he wouldn't be swayed. Finally, Minerva descended from the head table, and before she had even reached Harry's place at the table, he was standing up, nodding goodbye to his friends, and fell into step with his guardian as they made their way out of the hall. The package of gillyweed was a comforting weight in his pocket. He had practiced several times over the last few weeks, and a rather embarrassing conversation with Moaning Myrtle had informed him that the Mer People's Village was located towards the centre of the lake. Harry had been practicing non-verbal spells and was proficient in most first and second year spells by this point. He had made a point to learn the warming charm specifically, knowing that it would be cold in the lake. Once more he cursed whoever's brilliant idea it was to have 8 people spend an hour in a lake in Scotland in February. Honestly, hadn't the wizarding world ever heard of hypothermia? McGonagall led him over to the other champions, offering him nothing more than a hug and a good luck, as she knew he was worried. It was all over his face. The rest of the school streamed out after breakfast, gathering on the platforms created specially for the task. As Harry and the others stripped down to their bathing costumes, Harry felt the comforting presence of both his wand in its holster on his arm. He noted that Cedric was also wearing his own holster, courtesy of Harry for Christmas, and the small knife he had strapped to his thigh. It wasn't much, but it would help in a pinch. Harry noted in a detached way that Crouch was still absent, and Percy was taking his place as a judge. He had wondered if that would be good or bad for him. He'd always liked the studious Weasley the least of Ginny's brothers, and he didn't think the older boy was quite as thrilled as his youngest brothers at Harry's relationship with his sister. On the other hand, he did know Percy, and he thought his conversation at the Yule Ball might have had an impact. Just before 9 o'clock, Bagman used the sonorous charm to announce the beginning of the task. "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second task of the Tri-Wizard Tournament. Last night, something was taken from each champion and placed in the Black Lake. The champions will have 1 hour to retrieve whatever has been taken from them. On my mark!" Harry pulled out the gillyweed and shoved it into his mouth, trying not to gag at the slimy plant. Bagman counted down, and on the whistle, Harry wasted no time in jumping into the lake, feeling his gills starting to grow on his neck. He quickly made his way towards the centre of the lake, staying within a few feet of the surface. It was a game plan he and his friends had created. Since they knew approximately where the village was, he could estimate the correct place to dive, and wouldn't have to worry about the grindylows or any other obstacle that preferred the deeper parts of the lake. Harry reached what he guessed to be the centre of the lake and dove, his webbed hands and feet propelling him swiftly down as he reached the bottom of the lake. He saw he was pretty accurate. Barely 20 feet away was a rather aquatically beautiful village as he swam through. He observed what looked to be reed huts and with seaweed roofs. Several walls appeared to be made of mosaics created by shells and rocks. In the centre of the village, 4 people were tied. On the far left was Hermione, obviously Victor's captive, though there was nothing more than friendship between them. Cho was next, and there was a small girl next to her. The resemblance to Fleur was so obvious she had to be her sister, though she looked to be no older than 8 or 9. Harry's breathing sped up and he quickly swam over to Ginny, tied on the far end. She appeared to be asleep. He wasted no moment to touch her cheek before forcing himself to calm down. And complete his task. Sorry about that. He took out his knife and cut the rope, binding her to the bottom of the lake. It took a few minutes to free her, and once he had her in his arms, he looked around at the other captives for a moment, before deciding the most important thing right now was to get Ginny to the surface. He hoped the other champions were coming soon. He remembered what Minerva had said. Whatever his other shortcomings, Dumbledore wouldn't let the student be harmed. He quickly propelled himself to the surface, angling for the shortest path back to the crowd. As soon as they broke the surface, Ginny appeared to come out of her trance, coughing lightly, and Harry suddenly felt something snap back into place. Their bond was there, as strong as it ever was. Harry smiled. "Hey, you," he said mentally. Ginny looked around, startled, realising where she was. "Harry," her mental voice was relieved. "What did I tell you?" She kicked her feet as he held on to her, and the two made their way back to the waiting judges. "I knew you'd come for me." Harry nodded. "I'll always come for you," he replied mentally. As they reached the platform, Ron was there to help Ginny out of the water. He couldn't leave yet, as he had to wait for the gillyweed to wear off. It was then that Harry saw Fleur Delacour sitting at the edge of the platform, wrapped in a towel and sobbing. From what Harry could gather between the sobs, she had been attacked by grindylows, and she had to leave her sister down in the lake. Ginny knew immediately what he was planning on doing, and tried to stop him. "Harry!" She couldn't finish, though, as Harry turned and dove back beneath the lake. Ginny sighed, mentally. "Harry, if you get hurt down there, you'll only have yourself to blame." Harry continued to skim the surface, searching for the same place he'd stopped before. Her sister can't be more than 8. Gin, I have to help. He could feel Ginny's understanding, even if he felt her annoyance. "Why do you have to be so noble?" Harry didn't reply, as he dropped into a steep, vertical dive, making his way back to the Merpeople's village. He noted with relief that both Hermione and Cho were gone, and the little Delacour girl was the only one left tied up. He started to cut her ropes. A trident was shoved in his face as he turned to look at the merman. He wasn't sure how he could tell the difference, but he knew this one was male, who told him to stop. "Only one!" the merman squealed. Harry shook his head. "Her champion isn't coming. I'm taking her with me." And with one last cut, he had the little girl free and began swimming back to the surface. The merman grabbed his ankle, but a quick blast with his wand gave him room to keep moving upwards. He felt the gillyweed wearing off as he broke the surface. The little girl woke up and immediately began sobbing and speaking rapidly in French. Harry didn't speak French, but he simply tried to calm her down as best as he was able. "It's all right," he reassured her, wrapping her up securely in his arms and kicking with his feet to get them back to the shore. "Your sister's waiting for you. She's fine, and you're fine." The girl seemed to calm down, hearing that her sister was all right. She sniffed and looked at her rescuer. Harry smiled. "There we go," he said. "Can you tell me your name?" The girl sniffed. "Gabrielle," she replied, blushing. Harry just kept smiling and doing his best to keep her calm. "It's very nice to meet you, Gabrielle. My name's Harry." He continued to try and make some small talk for the next few minutes, but he was also trying to get them to the shore as quickly as possible. Not quite an easy feat without the webbed feet or any help from the girl he was towing. They made it to the platform with Fleur a few minutes later, and Gabrielle was quickly grabbed by her older sister, who was crying and asking what Harry assumed to be questions rapidly in French. Gabrielle replied excitedly, and Harry really wished he had understood what the two were saying, as Fleur released her sister the next moment and grabbed him in a tight hug. "You saved her! Thank you so much!" she gushed, kissing him once on each cheek before returning to Gabrielle. Harry stood there, bemused, before his girlfriend sidled up to him. "You trading me in, Potter?" she asked benignly. Harry seemed shocked and was about to sputter denials when he saw the twinkle in her eyes and felt her amusement. He smirked, grabbing her around the waist and pulling her in for a kiss. There were a few whistles from the crowd, and they separated, blushing lightly, though both looked oddly satisfied. The judges finished deliberating a moment later, and using a sonorous charm, Dumbledore announced the results. In 4th place, Miss Fleur Delacour. She showed mastery of the bubblehead charm. However, she became incapacitated due to being attacked by Grindylows. We award the Beauxbatons champion 25 points. There was a smattering of applause, but Fleur just looked relieved her sister was all right. In 3rd place, Mr. Victor Crumb, with 40 points for his partial transfiguration into a shark. There was more applause. In 2nd place, with 43 points, Mr. Cedric Diggory, for his mastery of the bubblehead charm, though he returned with his hostage 1 minute outside the time limit. Even more applause. And finally, in 1st place, with a full 50 points, Mr. Harry Potter, for his innovation in using the plant gillyweed, his rescue of not only his own hostage, returning first in just over half an hour, but also going back to rescue the remaining hostage, seeing that all captives were safe. The applause was shattering, and Harry was just relieved that no one had been seriously hurt, and allowed himself to be dragged over to Madame Pomfrey with the rest of the champions and hostages. The Mediwitch treated them all for exposure, muttering her own complaints about how the creators of this task didn't see fit to consult a healer first. It was surprisingly similar to Harry's own thoughts, and he just smiled at his ministrations. Before long, they were being led up to the castle by his friends. Ginny hadn't let go of his hand since he had returned with Gabrielle. Even though it was a Friday, classes had been cancelled because of the task, so everyone had the rest of the day off. First on Harry's list was a warm shower and a change of clothes. After lunch, he and Ginny left their friends and spent some time together cuddling in the room of requirement, just happy to be together. Harry told her about waking up and feeling her absence, which led to another discussion on whether or not they should tell anyone. Harry was more eager to tell Minerva than Mrs. Weasley, and Ginny agreed. "I love my mum, but she's not the most rational of people. Professor McGonagall seems like she's more reasonable. If we told her and asked her to keep it a secret, she would." Harry nodded. "Aunt Minerva trusts us," he reflected mentally. "I don't know how I really know that, but I think she trusts us to be responsible more than your mum would. We haven't even told your parents we're dating yet. How are we supposed to tell them we've got this bond? We have to ease them into the idea." Ginny felt the same way, and the two spent the remainder of the afternoon discussing the pros and cons of telling anyone about their bond, and whether or not they should tell Sirius and Remus as well as Minerva. They joined their friends for supper and were surprised when Victor joined them as well. He asked for a moment to speak with Ron, where he explained Hermione was his hostage only because he didn't have anyone else in the country, and she was a friend. He had hoped it wouldn't cause any issues between them, and he considered the brilliant witch a great friend, but that was all. Ron nodded, looking a little nonplussed, but he shook the Bulgarian's offered hand and agreed when Harry asked the Quidditch star to join them for the next meal. Fleur and her sister came by a few minutes later and hesitantly asked if they could sit with the Gryffindors. Harry nodded immediately, gesturing to 2 empty seats near Ron and Hermione. Fleur guided Gabrielle to the seat and slowly joined in the conversation, which was now revolving around the differences in the education systems. Victor was telling them about his classes in Durmstrang, and they were comparing the different teachings of transfiguration, charms, potions, and defense against the dark arts. Fleur chimed in from time to time with her opinions, and told them a little about her classes in Beauxbatons. Gabrielle didn't speak much, but she seemed to be listening intently as she ate. The group stayed sitting at the Gryffindor table for a while after supper ended, and were joined by more students from other houses as people began to depart for their common rooms. Cedric and Cho came over, as did Blaze, Luna, Susan, Daphne, and several more from the DA. Finally, Minerva had to inform them they needed to leave if they were going to make it back to their dorms by curfew. Her soft expression, however, informed them that she was very pleased by the gathering. Many were unnerved to see their stern professor be anything other than unyielding. End of chapter 25. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this. Welcome back to my channel. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And spread the word about this so I get a bit more exposure, so more people get to hear these amazing stories. Click that bell to get notified as well. Really, really like this bit. The second task is just great, and Ron actually being able to have a conversation with Victor, though we didn't get any dialogue, love it. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. See you in the next chapter. Bye!